Sorry. You'll get another opportunity. Yes.
Letting you all know, I'm putting up my tape recorder.
Okay.
Just letting you know as a courtesy.
All right.
Roger.
No, I couldn't remember your last name. Dave Rogers. Don't worry.
You guys say Joe Thomas. Playing golf. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so we have, next we have King and King here to talk to us about the building, proposed building project. Do you want to? Oh. We need to exit executive session. We will re-enter regular session at 7:32. Do you guys want to, you want to sit or stand, or what are you more comfortable?
Whatever you want.
Okay, I'll grab a chair.
Right?
I think everybody, last 2 weeks ago, you all had a chance to review the information that was sent up. There were 2 resolutions. There was some information on the project cost in terms of the various particulars relative to the proposed capital project. And I believe you had a pretty good discussion. You were here 2 weeks ago. Really, we're here to answer any questions. We can understand tonight you're going to be taking action on those 2 resolutions. There is a state environmental quality review resolution that was written by Andy Silver. And there was a project proposition written by your bond attorney, Ted Trespass. I think you reviewed both of those. There were some minor tweaks made in those based on the financial data that was updated between the last meeting and this meeting. There's some minor changes in the project scope and how it's going to be financed. So really, unless you have questions, we can walk through all of that, or you can just respond to any questions you might have. Otherwise, if you believe you're ready to pass the resolution, our understanding, but we'd be glad to respond to any questions before that.
I did hand this out to them,
Okay.
that we can talk about it after.
Yeah, we did, working with Sue and the committee, working on the public information pieces. What you have in front of you is something that Phil and our graphics folks worked on. It's really a draft. We said to Sue, you can mark it up at your leisure. Anything you like or suggestions, we just probably need a couple of days to do the final editing before it gets printed and distributed. And I think there are other things that we talked about in terms of various public information meetings. So I don't know if you were going to review that with the group, but I can certainly talk to it. Public information meetings at the town halls, at the fire departments, and the various communities that make up your district. And then I think the vote date is indicated there based on timing. There's some legal timeframes prior to the actual vote date that you need to get public advertising in your legal paper. I think that's all described in the resolution that Ted Trespass wrote. Anything else I can answer for you? I'd be glad to do so.
I think you've been really thorough in everything presented to us. Does anybody have any questions?
We'd love to have your input on the brochure, and we modeled that after something we've done for communities like yours, but no two communities are alike, and so if you've got ideas or suggestions, you should go back to Sue.
Tom is already on our committee, and I was gonna recommend 2 other board members just want to come in for one meeting, kind of look at this, rewrite it, because part of the section is board. And John also wants to add another little section that will probably shrink down the Cougar part a little, from the facilities manager of, why and where these things came from. Give a little bit more specific detail. And then, as he said, we, have already had invitations from, one of the fire halls and one of the, town board meetings. So we need to have invitations from the others to be able to
Which
go
one do
to
you
that.
have invitations from?
Russell has asked, and Edwards Town Board meeting. And I was gonna ask Chris if he would get us an invitation to the Edwards Fire Hall.
Yep.
And then we have, the grass on our list as well.
Can we go back and talk about the project itself and some of the things that are a part of that? Is that part of the scope tonight?
Certainly can.
I guess one of the questions that I had, and John has done his very best to explain to me, we had talked about using excess heat or whatever for the greenhouse. And apparently that is something that has been decided is not really feasible. Could you explain to me what changed in that thinking?
John had, whoever John is, but we've been working with John, and John had a thought, which was a very good idea, to explore, I'm gonna call it the green machine, for lack of better. But what it did is it took heat from the boiler plant and converted it to electricity.
Okay,
And our engineers, Phil and I didn't do it, but our engineers looked at that machine very closely. They talked to the manufacturer, they had several conversations with John, and it was not economically feasible, even with your state aid, to make that machine make sense.
okay.
I think they said without, even with the state aid, the payback was not something that was worthwhile. So we looked at some other options to produce electricity on site, and we are exploring those as part of the project. There are some photovoltaics and some other on-site energy production to expand what you're already doing. In terms of I think you asked a specific question in relation to that particular machine. It just didn't make sense. It was interesting because our engineer, the first question he asked the supplier of this machine, or the first question the supplier asked us, he said, is it waste heat? And it's not waste heat that you've got. Waste heat would be something from a manufacturing process that was going to be dumped into the atmosphere. That's his definition of waste heat. And that really was, unfortunately, what that machine was really originally invented to do.
Okay.
So you're not in that ballpark part, you're not in that particular criteria, so therefore the payback just didn't make sense. So, but we are doing some on-site energy production through photovoltaic, and there are a lot of other energy savings with the lighting, the solar hot water, and those other things that have right now been very conservatively estimated at somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 a year, given present energy cost or present electricity costs.
Right. All right,
So I don't know if that answered your question.
yes,
Okay.
I just kind of missed the connection between, what we were very excited about and suddenly, oh, we can't do that. So it was just the payback.
Very good idea, it just didn't make sense in this application.
Okay.
But we are going to be producing some on-site, or you're going to be producing some on-site electricity once the project is done
Mhm.
through photovoltaic. So we ended up at the same point.
Okay.
So we're gonna be saving money, but we're not gonna be able to sell it back to NIMO. That's what we talked about initially on the other
The,
project?
the way that most of the, and again, I'm not an engineer, so I may not have it quite correct in mechanical terms, but if you were at a point where you were producing more energy than you were using, for example, our own office building, we have photovoltaics on the roof. Now, maybe on a Sunday in the summer, when nobody's got their computer on and the air conditioning isn't running, our PVs might be spinning the meter backwards. So we are in fact
Okay.
pushing it back to the grid, but you would only see it as a reduction in your energy usage in your monthly bill from your service provider. So that part is possible.
Okay, that's fine.
So selling it back, maybe not specifically, but spinning the meter backwards, that's certainly possible.
When you're talking about the greenhouse, now where's the location?
We've looked at a number of different, and it's really conceptual right now, so it hasn't really been fine-tuned. I think that's, once we get through the referendum, we need to determine exactly where it is. So we've got it, on site, but specific location not yet to be determined. Still some further conversation. As with this level of where we are in the process, there isn't really any detailed design done. It's all based on our expertise, similar projects, similar scope, similar sites, our experience and background, and then various other projects we've done of similar characters. So it can be almost anywhere you want it on site, within reason.
One of the things that we talked about while we were meeting earlier tonight was to have an actual greenhouse committee and get active members from the community, from the faculty, from, that want to do it, and then actually have a plan in place so that when and if this is built, we know what its purpose is going to be, not build it and then say, okay, now what are we going to do? But, because I think there's been several different ideas or thought processes of what it should be, but if the committee actually takes that on now, and from people who are interested in later being, obviously the main focal point of doing that.
Essentially, based on the schedule that we're moving on, construction would not start till earliest this time or March of 2014. So there is an opportunity for a committee to get together, and if you ultimately decide maybe it doesn't make sense, then you don't award that portion to the contractor, or you don't even bid it if you get to that point. So you have those opportunities to make that final decision a bit down the road. So right now, the dollars are included in the project.
Are there any other questions, Billy?
What are the school projects that you're doing in the same time period?
Right now, in terms of
Would coincide with this project?
construction
Yeah.
activities, up in this area, the ones that fit, I'm gonna look at Phil, because Phil really will be the guy on site during the construction.
The only other project, that I've got going on, it won't be in construction at the same time, because it's planned for construction this summer, it's not finished. Yeah, but I don't have any other project, I don't know if Alexandria Bay has a.
They might have a small project going this summer or next summer. But again, one of the things that we look at, and it's a good question, when we looked to respond initially to the RFP that you folks put out, it's one of the things we look at. What is our manpower? Are we going to be capable of doing the construction administrative services? We're not actually building the project, we're just managing the construction administration side of it as the architect engineering team. And we have to do a good job for you, because all we got is a reputation. So we look at that. We look at our manpower and look at the future. Can we handle this job? Do we have a project manager that's going to be able to be with it from today through the end? And if we're not, we probably would not have, we definitely would not have even responded to the initial RFP. So we want you guys to be able to say to your friends, these guys are good, they know what they're doing. Hire them for your next thing. We're looking for a good reference from you when it's done.
These projects are extremely schedule sensitive.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And there's only one party we don't have full control over, and they're sitting down at City of Albany. So. But we can push them.
Do you have, work directly with Albany?
Pardon?
Do you have people on your staff who work directly with all these?
You're looking at,
Okay.
all of our project managers deal directly with the folks in Albany, and they're in constant contact. And we've been doing it long enough. We've outlasted most of the people that are left down there, but we do know the Carl Cerno, who's the director of the facilities group, and we work with every project manager, project architect, and engineer who are doing the review. So we do have a good rapport with those people, and we can call them up on your behalf, and give them a little nudge when we need to. Other questions? Otherwise, I think we're set,
Okay.
okay? And then you,
I'll get back to,
yeah, the only thing I mentioned to you, and I don't know if you talked about the order,
Yes,
legally,
the secret has
the
to go
secret
first.
resolution needs to be prior to the project resolution. Can you get to that point? I think if you're doing them on the same night, nobody would really care, but
no, we switched it.
you want to make sure that if you can do it, do that first. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Did I prevent the Syracuse tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Not a problem.
Okay, before we go into our public participation section, just for the benefit of those of you who haven't been here before, I'm just going to review the protocol. Our total amount of time for the public participation segment is 30 minutes. Each person that's signed up can have 5 minutes to speak. We won't be answering questions. It's not a question and answer. You may make public comment, but we won't allow personal attacks or complaints about any particular person. Stacia, you're up first.
I had sent you all a list of questions, and I'm not sure if you have had time to answer those at this point.
To be honest with you, Stacia, we didn't get them until late Friday night, and we wouldn't have had time to respond to them tonight. And the second thing is, after sending that list of questions to our attorney that was just here a while ago, he said, don't answer those. He told us not to. But this is a public comment section, so you may make the comments to us, but I'm not going to answer those questions.
Okay, well, I think everyone here has a list of the questions that I handed out, and some of them are directly based from the law book, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to answer them. But I guess I'll first start with, you're talking about the building project, and I think John Daniels has done a fantastic job in beginning to put this together, and he has some great ideas of things that will save this district money. My question, and I'm kind of wondering, maybe there's been some suggestions, or there could be some suggestion boxes, or maybe the employees could be asked, and the only reason I say that is because I know for a fact that the cheerleading mats are beginning to show wear, and they are a safety. They're needed for the cheerleaders. I'm sure there's probably gym classes that use them. I'm not sure, I guess Lori could answer that, but when they're showing wear, wouldn't this be a great time to incorporate that in your building project? I know there are thousands and thousands of dollars to buy new mats. So if that's one item, then I'm guessing there must be more items out there. And if we're going to look into purchasing, I just think maybe that's an idea we could check into. John had also brought up the biomass and the water softener, and he had mentioned at the September 24th meeting that I was at, we have one. He was using as a spare, came with the biomass. It's never been used. He was going to use it in the bus garage. You're just going to buy piping. Now it appears there's $10,000 that's on the building project. Yeah, okay.
Just for your, go ahead and finish, because I don't want to interrupt your time.
Okay, I already brought up the, the mats, and I guess you're aware, Terry, that I know you called several people and asked them not, or told them they were not going to be allowed to speak. So
How do you know that? How do you think that?
I have had people that you called call me, and I'm not going to say names because you know who they are. And so, I mean, as board members, you all have the law that I wrote here, and I'll read it if anyone chooses me to do so. But the law, New York State law, states that you're a board. There are 9 of you that make up your board. Not one person has power unless it's authorized. So were you authorized to call them people and tell them they couldn't speak? Did you vote to not allow anyone to speak, or did you just decide that you
Again, I'm
were?
not gonna answer that, but you can make a comment.
Then I guess my comment to you, 9 board members, is you hold the power together. Not one of you holds the power. If one of you is making decisions for all of you, myself, if I was sitting on that board, I would be looking into why one person makes your decisions. You have all the laws on authorizing meetings, and everyone here has them, so I won't trouble you with those, but I'll just keep moving on. I was also brought up of an incident that's taken place at school. This was at your last meeting. Mrs. Lamity was actually asked by a board member if there was any issues with the new teacher evaluations. Basically, her answer was no. It was not really, needs some tweaking. I was actually told that there is a teacher here that has an issue with that, and I don't know if any of you here sitting are aware of it, but if you're not, you will be now. The teacher received her evaluation. The results weren't given within 5 days as required by this process. And so my question, well, I guess I can't ask the question. My statement is going to be, why then was the board not given a straight answer when they asked? Maybe another thing you might want to check into amongst yourself, I guess. Homecoming week. I was also told that there will be no homecoming spirit week activities this year. That the decorating of the hall walls that each class has done, and the decorating of the shopping carts for the homecoming parade will not be allowed. Now, we were told it was because it's a safety violation. Mr. Remington told his government class that. He was told that from Sue Kelly. I would ask that you check into this safety violation. Again, I've given you laws. I have foiled these, and I am still waiting to hear back on them. I have not even received a response that my foils were received to be processed on. But there are strict rules and regulations on safety drills. For instance, 8 of them must be performed in this building before the 1st of December. I don't believe that 8 of them have been, and I would like to see proof if they have been. And I would like to see proof for the last, since 2008, to be quite specific.
Okay, Stacia, that would be your 5 minutes. Thank you.
Does anyone here want to donate 5 minutes to me?
No, I'm sorry, you get 5 minutes.
It's perfectly legal. Messina does it all the
Yes.
time. Chris, how is your feeling about someone donating time to me?
I'm okay with it.
Rick, can someone donate 5 minutes to me?
More than 5 minutes. I'd like to hear some opinions from other people.
Yes, we would too. Randy?
I think in all fairness, that if you have questions that someone else can ask on your behalf, that would be fine. But I think that we need to limit to 5 minutes per person, because that's how we set the rule. That's my interpretation.
Joe?
Yeah, I would want to make sure that everybody that signed up gets their fair 5 minutes to go.
Reggie?
We have 30 minutes given, and there's 5 minutes per person, and if there's 5 other people that want to talk to us, then they won't have time to talk, so.
Lynn?
I believe the president who speaks to the board has addressed that issue.
Mandy?
I feel in order for everybody to have their chance, we need to limit to the 5 minutes and that gives everyone an opportunity to speak.
That's fair. I'll let you ask the crowd, but I would just like to point out your guideline also says you can speak on positive things, which you didn't allow at the last meeting, but you did allow me
Thank you,
tonight.
your time is up.
Anyone else?
Brianna, did you sign up?
Yeah, and I donate my time to her.
Diane Rice?
Yeah, my question was just about the front parking. At the last meeting, you guys were talking about different things you were gonna do for the one-way where the buses start. And it really seems like it's become a science project. I wonder why you can't just leave it the way it is and let the people exit, only going from where you go out of the parking lot left and go. Why does it have to be all this other construction? You know how you could, I don't have a drawing board. In the parking lot, you go to the right, you're behind the buses, you're behind every bus. Why can't you just go, take your left and then turn whichever way on the street? Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as removing a sign with no extra cost. I mean, it seems like it's gotten into this huge science project to build this and do that.
What was signed with? Yeah, I guess I'm not following along.
You know where,
Yeah.
there's this stop sign, you can't go out to the left, you're not supposed to go out to the left.
Oh,
You're only supposed to go to the
It's a
right.
one-way.
The reason it's not a double lane,
yeah.
it's not a double lane. Right here? Right.
That's not a double.
Probably by DOT standards,
But it looks like
30 feet.
There has to be so much.
And
That was one of the things we
traveling
talked
into
about.
the parking lot, it's really only one lane. You have cars parked on either side. If you had a lot of people coming in and picking up their kids, there'd be no way for you to turn around and even get back out and go if you came into there.
That's hypothetical, because usually, where now, it would be easy, you're sitting there waiting for the buses to go, and there's only usually 3 cars maybe that want to use it.
It's a good question.
It's just,
We
I didn't
can
understand it.
discuss
You
it.
could review
And we're
with
still
John.
working on
It's
it.
big enough. you
It's
know,
changed
all
a
about
million
saving
times.
money.
Mandy, did you ever talk to Mike Davis about getting the 45? Have you ever mentioned it to Mike?
We've gone to the county. We're not getting
Mike couldn't get you
anywhere.
anywhere though?
No.
Because we were talking about that tonight, wondering if Mike could help at all.
I don't know if Mike had been contacted, but I know we contacted the powers that be at the
Right.
county and they don't.
I know that was one of the things that would help, right, if we could
Oh,
get
yeah.
45, right?
Exactly.
I wanted to tell you guys too that there will be an upcoming community forum for the building project. You may have heard us talk about it earlier. There will be one in Russell and one in Edwards and one in DeGrasse.
A meeting, you mean?
A meeting, a community meeting for where, I don't know, maybe King will be there. No, okay, John and Sue and maybe, and
Financial.
okay, and financial, and board member too, and people can
Then we
be
can make the
thinking about what you
suggestions.
want to
Yeah.
ask, make suggestions.
Can they make,
If it's not wide enough, widen it. I mean, is there any way of saving money?
Oh,
So
that
we
was,
can look at that.
that
We
was,
can look at
Diane's
That's
gonna
a
draw a
job.
diagram. Diane, they weren't willing to just widen it because of the speed of the street. And that was, I mean, we had like 5 different proposals.
How hard is it to get that down to 45?
It's been impossible thus far.
Every other school has it, you know?
I'm
They're-
Do a study.
The county are the ones that they called and said, no, we will not give you the double lane there, we will not widen it. I mean,
yeah, but they've done it for everybody else, right?
but not every school has a blinking
No,
light.
not everyone.
You know, the majority, I mean, most do, but
Most
not every school. And they did point that out. And I did call Toby Bogart and he's supposed to get back to me.
Oh, no, yeah, we just got some pressure on you, we just need to make some phone calls.
All right, do we have the next person on the list?
All right, do you have anything else for us, Diane?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
We're on it, Lynn, we're on it.
Shirley?
Well, my understanding was that we were going to be able to ask a question, so I guess if we can ask a question, my comment, I just have a comment wondering why, I see that there's a proposal for 2 to 3 more buses this year on the proposed budget, and during last year's visit from Crady, didn't he tell us that maybe we should look into just purchasing 1 to 2 at a time instead of 3 and 4 buses at a time?
I
Or-
think it was 2.5, something crazy like that.
Do we have buses that are needing to?
We're gonna have our transportation director is gonna be presenting his budget and probably discussing that,
Okay,
right after public participation.
So can we ask him when he's talking about it?
I'm sorry?
Can we ask him questions while he's?
maybe he could mention that?
He's
I think he's
planning
going
to
to.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have anything else, Shirley? Okay, Tammy?
When I had a chance to read back through the board minutes, I saw that there were some raises that were approved for non-union and the non-union staff members, which became effective July 1st, 2012. Obviously, I can't ask a question, so what was approved for raises was different than what was actually in the budget. There was over a $3,000 difference. So obviously, as a taxpayer, this raises concern, and my question maybe, which can be addressed in an email or some way that to explain why there would be such a difference. I mean, it is still $3,000 of our money, which we didn't approve of, so. And why the cafeteria managers also went down. Thank you.
I can't answer your questions, or I have to answer everybody's, but I will make a blanket statement that, our budget is just a budget. It's a plan, whether it's raises or anything else. Sometimes we go a little bit over, or things come a little bit under. And as you may have heard us say in the past, the way we determine raises, is pretty much straight across the board. Whatever we negotiate with a union is what the other non-union people get. That's how we do it. Sorry, that's my short answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have Frank or Lori's first? Frank.
Yeah, I don't do.
I'm with you, Frank.
I like paper.
I don't do it either.
I prefer paper myself, I'll be honest with you. Computers and I aren't 100%, so that everybody can see what the budget is.
Oh, thank you.
I love dealing with flyers. Makes my day. You shouldn't be surprised.
I'll be honest with you. For the first item,
Too much.
okay, for the first item, yeah, under equipment, I like this. There, now I can see, okay, thank you.
It's either none or this.
Yeah, I gotta have some light.
1, 2, or 3.
Equipment, if you look under that, what we're proposing for 2013 and 14 is $2,000. If you will see, the current budget is $32,014.72. I want to point out that was the purchase of the school van and all of the radios that we had to purchase to come into narrowband compliance with FCC. The reason I want to keep the $2,000 in there is it will also help us maintain our 24/7 security systems, our camera systems on our school buses. That's why we want to leave the $2,000 there. Bus purchases, before I get into bus purchases, I'd like to put that one towards the bottom so I can explain our bus purchases. And what we have proposed, because what the budget shows we spent, I have to explain that, and it's going to be a little bit easier at the end, I believe. Contractual miscellaneous, which is $10,000. is this is for things in the bus garage that aren't under a general contract to repair or fix, such as the lift inspection that we have to do annually. So it covers things to that effect. And there's quite a few things that have to be inspected or keep in compliance with OSHA. Repeater, right there. Contractual consultant, and basically what this $2,000 is for, not for the training of our drivers, it's for training that I have to take myself in order to keep my 19A status, SBDI, or if we have to bring in somebody to give me my state test, because obviously I can't give myself those tests. So that's what that money's for. Fleet insurance, this is the insurance on the school buses. We're looking at raising that $1,000 this year. Everybody knows that the car insurance is not staying the same, it's going up just like everybody else's. Physicals aren't there. Next one's gasoline. You'll see where that increased $3,000. And what that is that's for gas for the van and the custodial equipment for plowing. This year, we did not budget enough for gasoline, and that is my fault. So I'd like to ask to raise it $3,000 so we have enough gasoline for the van, because we're using that van to take our students to Rome, and also it's utilized for driver ed. Which the first year I came, we didn't have driver's ed, and I didn't figure that in for the price of the gasoline. So that's why we're looking at that raise, so that the kids can still have that van for driver ed. No increase in, here, tires and chains, and miscellaneous supplies. This is where we purchase our tires. That includes for the van, the buses, no change there. Bus parts, there's no change there, staying the same. Diesel fuel, we're looking at a $5,354 increase, and that's just the price of diesel going up and the miles that we run. And just to give you a rough idea, from January 1st to December 31st, we ran 237,497 miles. Next to 20,000 I put on my car seems small. Antifreeze oil, we're leaving that the same. We don't anticipate needing any more of that. Materials and supplies for the bus garage. These are different chemicals that we buy, as far as it could be disinfectant, chemicals for cleaning engines, degreasers. Office supplies are also included in that. Bus driver training. Now, obviously, I'm a trainer, but state ed requires us to have so many people, like to do the basic course and stuff. So what happens is that's contracted out. This year was with Pupil Transportation Safety Institute. We had two new drivers and 2 new monitors that required training. 30-hour basic for the drivers, 10-hour basic for the monitors. That's where that money comes from, but there's no increase there. Equipment, $3,625. And what part of this is part of this is from where we had purchased the radios earlier in 5510-200 under equipment. We're moving it down there for the equipment for bus garage to try to update some of the equipment that's in there. And that could be anything from floor jacks to pressure washer, equipment like this that we never had the funds to get updated. I mean, the steam cleaner we have up there, Tom, you could probably attest to this, it's probably 18, 20 years old, we can't buy parts for it anymore. And it's about $4,000 to get a new one. Contractual, this is for like the TransFinder program, our routing program for our school buses, mechanics program. Not staying the same. Those are maintenance fee we have to pay. Electricity, obviously, that's our share of the electric bill. Heating oil, that's to keep the $7,000 for the, in case the biomass doesn't heat the garage for a boiler up there. Contractual travel, you'll see where I put down $1,000 additional. What I would like to do is try to have our mechanic go to some ASE and CSE courses to keep him up on the new buses. And obviously it takes money to get them from point A to point B. Telephone's going up an additional $50 this year. On the materials and supplies in the bottom, that's paper products like Kleenex for the school buses, toilet tissue, paper towels. On the school buses, I am proposing to purchase 3 school buses, not to exceed $320,000. And it would be 66 passenger buses. One of the reasons is, and here's the, I'm looking at trading in 4 school buses. Bus 87, the mileage is 96,470 miles. This last year, we took the fuel tank off one of the buses we got rid of last year because 87 had a fuel leak. And obviously, under the contingency budget, we didn't have a lot of money for parts. So we swapped out tanks. That tank that's on that bus is quite old. We also, in the same bus, we removed the luggage compartment from underneath because it had rusted through and just put a body panel there. We replaced cross members on it in the past 2 years. Side panels we've had painted. It's starting to show signs again of wear of our lovely road salt they use. Fender wells are starting to rot through, and we've already replaced the step well in this bus. That's on 87, that one bus alone. If we can continue to keep putting parts in it, it's like an old car. Once it starts to rust through, you fix this spot, there's always another spot that's coming through somewhere else. 88, it's got 116,573 miles. We're going to have to replace at least 1 cross member on that bus. And again, the sides of the body and the fender wells are starting to rot through from the road corrosion. Bus 89, 110,411 miles. This bus was originally, before my time, was put on the BOCES route, which runs 58. Yeah. And that's all, you know how the state puts us out there. We've already replaced 2 cross members on that bus. It has some severe rusting of the undercarriage, and I believe that's from running that road. The step well is probably going to need to be replaced this year because of rust. Along the whole back of the bus where the bumper connects, that's all started to rust through. We could probably get another year out of that before we have to do anything, but once you start to get the holes through there, that's why DOT pulled one of our other ones last year, because then it makes a hole into the passenger compartment. And that bus has some rear body damage. Before I came, I don't know, it looks like somebody backed it into something. I don't know what it was or what they hit. In 93 is one of our Ford E450s that has 136,294 miles on it. Year I started here, we had to replace the body panels on the side of it. They're starting to rust through again. We have cleaned a couple of spots and repaired them, but it's going to continue to rust. Once it starts, it's hard to stop it. We just had to put a steering box on it to get it to pass DOT. The turbo's starting to go on it. We're either going to need to replace that or rebuild it this year. The battery box on this bus is underneath the bus because it's a 30-passenger bus. It's not like the conventional buses you see up front, it's one of the smaller ones. That battery box is starting to rust through because it sits right in the bottom of the bus. And the rear bumper is starting to rust. It's not through, but it's starting to rust. So that's why I'm recommending to swap out those 4 buses and replace them with 3 66 passengers. And this would also fall under the 7-year replacement plan that was discussed by Leonard Busk with Nick Crane last year.
So they'll be under warranty, right? The new, last year's 3 buses and then the 3 buses you're purchasing this year will have warranty on them?
Oh, yes. These will also be treated with the Carwell rust protectant, a rust inhibitor, I guess they call it. You can purchase that for the older buses, but they won't give you a warranty with it.
Is that to a 3-year warranty, the rust proof?
Pardon me?
Is that also 3-year warranty, the rust proof?
No, that, as long, if it's a new bus under the car well, that bus is covered for rust.
For how long?
For how long though?
10 years.
10 years, okay.
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 And under the car well, because I had an issue with the fact that if we do go into 7-year rotation plan, we're gonna be getting rid of buses before they're 10 years old. And we purchased this plan, say, for a 10-year plan on a, say we bought a new bus this year, we bought a 10-year plan for it. Carwell will not, they will and they won't. I was under the impression that they would not transfer it to a new bus. They won't transfer it to a new bus, but they will give you 3 years protection off on a new bus, because the way state ed does it, you buy a 8 or a 10-year plan. There's no in between. That's the only thing state ed's approved, 8 and 10-year plan. So even if we bought an 8-year plan, we can use that additional year on a new bus, but they don't assign it, like, for instance, say the bus 102, they won't assign it to that bus, but when Carwell comes, we are allowed to put it on there, because they don't get their money from state ed until it's done. They get so much per year over that 10-year program. And we can utilize that if we don't need it on a bus, we can utilize that on maintenance equipment. A good one I thought about would be the van we purchased. And as long as it's done within a year of the purchase, they'll warranty it. Maintenance vehicles, the plow truck. The truck would be a good one. The Suburban, obviously not so good, because it's, you could probably throw a cat through it anywhere. It's, you know, it's been around for 12 years. It's a plow truck. I'm sorry, I'm just blunt. We plow snow with it here, and that's what we use it for. You know, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking at. Do I have any questions on it?
Frank, is this the last of that group of 7 buses that we purchased?
No, this isn't even the start of the last 7 buses you purchased. The year you purchased the 7 buses in the 1 year, that's gonna be 2 years down the road before you get to that 7.
So if we do this now, is that gonna set us up
Well,
better for that?
I believe it's going to set the district up better, for the simple fact is, if you can replace, and just like Nick said last year, if you can replace 2 or 3 each year, it's much easier on your budget, the taxpayers, than going out and buying 7 buses. And if we buy, say, we bought the 3 last year, get the 3 this year, when it comes time for that 7, we won't have to replace them all at once. You know, we may be able to ease into it a little bit, hopefully with the Carwell on them, they'll last a little bit longer, and we won't have to worry about, well, they will last longer because they have to pay for the repairs, so I don't mind them doing the repairs, because it doesn't cost us that way.
Who does the repairs? We send the buses out for repairs?
Well, if it's rotted through, under this Carwell program, Carwell's responsible for any repairs in that bus. So what they would do is they would take that bus and it would either go to Leonard, or another one they use is Bernie Bus, does a lot of body repairs to school buses. Carwell would pay them to repair. They're responsible for the body rust once we pay for this program, once we put this program on the bus.
What
Is
about?
that the case with road salt? If Carwell comes in and determines that this rust is a result of road salt, is it still under warranty?
Yes, as long as we treat it within the first year, and then treat it annually.
When you say treat it, what do you mean?
They come annually, every summer, and they treat it with their Carwell product. For a lack of terms, I mean, I'm not a chemist, I don't really know what it is. It's environmentally safe, but it almost looks like an oil that they spray on there. And it's a rust inhibitor. It's not a rust protector, it's an inhibitor. So what it does is it stops that bus from rusting through. If their product doesn't work, they're responsible for whatever damages to that bus. And I mean from corrosion to repair it. So if the salt ate through it, yes, because that is designed. The only stipulation they have is that you do not wash the undercarriage of your buses monthly, because you're washing the product off. They recommend once a year, no more than twice a year, to hose the undercarriage of these buses off so that you don't wash their product off, because it doesn't do us any good to put it on and then take a pressure washer and blow it all off. And I mean, that's common sense.
That sounds interesting. The new buses that we just recently purchased, has this program now?
Absolutely.
How does it appear to be working so far?
Well, it was actually in place, I believe, on the buses that you said purchased just before I came. And you don't notice the rust on those like you would on an average bus going down the road. You know where you get the flaking on the frame? That doesn't seem to be there. So I would have to say it's working. But to say, is it gonna work for 10 years? I can't tell you that because we don't have anything to back it up. Clifton Fine has been using it for years and they still like it. So I would have to say Clifton's in basically the same territory we are as far as the road salt goes. It seems to be working good there. So far, it's working for us.
Is this Carwell program part of the price of the bus, or is this an additional?
Well, it's actually part of that 320 not to exceed, that's part of it. Because what happens is you have the price of the bus and that anything additional you have done to that bus is under options. Like our two-way radios we put in, our 24/7 security camera system that goes in there. The Carwell program would be in there. Those would be options. Anything that state ed does not put in the base price of that bus is classified as an option. So that could be right down to a strobe light with the way state ed works.
Do we still have 10 buses on the main lineup, Frank?
Pardon me?
Do we still have 10 buses on our main lineup?
No, actually we have, I believe it's 12 in the main lineup.
So 6 of them would be new, would be going out for repairs under warranty.
Yes,
So would we still employ a full-time mechanic, or would we cut him down to part-time?
no, I think you would have to still have to have a full-time mechanic because the problem with they still gotta have their oil changes, they still gotta have maintenance done, brakes adjusted if they need it, or a brake job. You still gotta keep those buses in compliance with DOT.
Frank, in order to get it put on the van, what would we have to do?
I would have to contact Carwell because when I talked to him, there's a price that we could go ahead and have it done, and don't quote me because I was at a meeting when they told me somewhere between $100 and $120 to have the van done per year. As long as it's done within the first year, it's covered under the warranty. And I did not know that they did, small vehicles, they will do your personal car.
Hey Frank, one last question. Does this Carwell program also, would that take care of any cross members that need to be replaced due to rust?
Yes, absolutely it will, yes. Anywhere where they can get the Carwell product is warranty. They actually even drill in the, I don't know if you've noticed, the rubber rails down the side of the school bus, they stick out a little farther than the rest of the body. They drill a pinhole in those, they spray that through there, and then they put a rubber plug in there. Because the water, they're not sealed, they're not sealed to the bus, those rubber rails, they're just riveted on. And this Carwell goes in there, and what you'll see is that you've got the rubber rail here, and you'll see like that stuff will drip down through it. And that's what it is, it creeps. It's almost similar to the old rust inhibitor we used to buy in the spray cans, like Freol and WD-40. It actually crawls.
Do they do the same thing on the step? Do you have those or that member on there for support? Do they drill that and spray it in there too?
Yes, they do, if they still have it. The new steps they're designing, Tom, don't have that in there. They've done away with that. Because of one of that issue, you would get that road salt in there and it would eat up through.
Yeah.
So now they kind of make that step well like almost like an open box.
What's the cost of a bus to have this put on? You say it's an option, so just a general approximate.
I'll tell you exactly. It went up this year, so I don't want to give you the wrong figure. For the 10-year program, it's $2,484.
$100,000 bus, we spend $2,000 more, and you can squeak out a couple extra years for it.
And if you look at the buses here, or most of the districts in this part of the state, it's not so much the motor the reason you're getting rid of the bus, it's the body, because it's starting to rot through.
Frank, how long does it take to replace a cross member you talked about?
Well, it depends. A cross member, you're actually lifting the body up off the bus to replace it. I would say 2 guys, probably 16, probably 24 hours, Tom, guessing, depending on which one it was, I would say. And you have to depending on which cross member it is, it has to be welded back in. Some go all the way to the outside, some do not.
It's a pretty cheap insurance, huh?
Oh, I would say, yeah, absolutely, yes it is. And that's why we're doing it, because I figured it would, the district thought about it, I've looked into it. It's really a cheap insurance plan to save $1.
You don't have to weld them all?
Some of them are put in with like a clip, depending on which cross member it is. The full ones that come right off the side rail, or the side of the bus are welded. Any other questions?
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you for your service.
Lori's gonna present the SI. Good night, Frank.
The budget isn't a whole lot different than last year, it's up a little bit, but, the main difference I think that takes the total up is the uniforms. Just to go down through, baseball, softball, are up just a little bit, but basically it's just the necessities, that go along with running a baseball team and a softball team as far as the balls and, a couple bats. As you know, the baseball, team had to incorporate new bats because the other one all became, the new regulations all became obsolete. So baseball and softball is pretty much the same. Basketball, the boys and girls are both up just a little bit because they wanted to invest a little bit more money in the reversible jerseys, practice jerseys we call them. But our modified uniforms are kind of, they get what's handed down and handed down and handed down. So they've gotten a little tattered. So what they'd like to do is they both have asked to purchase a few extra. The other one would be better. Sorry. That's all right. So I'll just keep going with basketball. So what they did was they ordered, I think each team ordered 15 extra ones that they would like to order smaller sizes and give to the modified team so that they can get the reversibles instead of the jerseys that have been passed down. Because as we know, modified athletes are not the same size as varsity athletes, and sometimes it's hard to get a good fit there. Men's and women's soccer, that is up a little bit, and the reason that is because other than the necessities, each team, modified girls, varsity girls, modified boys, and varsity boys, all need some practice balls. It's been a few years since we've ordered practice balls. We always get brand new game balls every year, and then the game balls become practice balls. But our practice balls are pretty well shot. A lot of them don't hold air, the skin's coming off. I know as a modified coach, I started with 2 bags of balls at the beginning of the season and finished the season with 1, just because, they stopped holding air or the leather started peeling off. So what we put into both the men's and the women's soccer budget is 10 new practice balls for each of the teams. 10 for mods, 10 for the varsity, boys and girls. And we're going to try to do a better job at keeping the balls where they belong, so we're going to order them color-coded. So the modified girls' balls will all be orange, the modified boys might be green, for instance, and then the varsity girls will be red, and the varsity boys will be blue. That way, when we see an orange ball, we know who it belongs to, or when the boys sneak off with somebody else's ball, we know exactly where that ball belongs. Baseball, softball is the same. Golf, we went up a little bit in talking with the coach, and she talked with the golf coach and the golf pro, and asked, what training aids do these kids need? So she's ordering a few more training aids. I guess one of the main things she said, the golf pro said was very important for young golfers is to get the right grip. So there's certain grips that you can put over top of your clubs that show the kids exactly where to put their fingers. So she's ordered a few of those, I think about a dozen, so that takes the golf budget up just a little bit. Women's volleyball, that's down, as you can see, but last year, as you remember, we ordered poles and a new net. So the budget that she has there is just basically, you know, the socks, the knee pads, the new volleyballs for the games. Swimming is up a little, but that's tentative. Becky and I have spoke. There's, other than the necessities of the caps and a few training aids for swimming, there's 2 cables that hold the lane line plastic things together, and 2 of those need replacing. So in that price is the price for 2 new cables so we can string the lane lines. Also, the fixing of our electric timer starter is built into there. It wasn't working, so we are going to get that fixed. Cheerleading remains the same, paint budget, rule books, all that is the same. I went down a little in medical supplies for this year because I had some money left at the end of last year, so I used it up by getting a bunch of medical supplies for last year to restock everything, so I haven't had to purchase a whole lot for this year, so I'm thinking next year I won't need as much money for that. Conferences and clinics are the same, and where the $2,600 increase in the uniform budget is this year, women's softball, men's baseball, and volleyball are all up for uniforms. Volleyball is the only team that's going to get a complete set of new uniforms. Baseball and softball, between Rob and I getting together with the modified coaches, we decided that especially the jersey parts of the baseball, softball uniforms, they don't get really beat up very much, but the pants do. So what we're going to do is just purchase some replacement pants for both the modified teams and the varsity teams. Rob did put in for a couple of new jerseys. I think he learned his lesson about buying white jerseys and sliding on a baseball field. So a few of his jerseys, he said, have a lot of stains on the front from guys sliding. So in the uniform fund, along with pants for baseball, is a couple more, I think 3 or 4 new jerseys for the baseball team, and then to redo the impact, the online impact concussion. So all in all, we're up about $3,000 from last year. Any questions?
Laura, why is men's so much more expensive than women's?
Men's.
You know, like all of it, like men's soccer, men's basketball, men's baseball. Why so much more?
Basketball's a little is more this year because Billy would like he put in to buy 2 more ball racks because of 2 of the racks that we have are where you get the balls out of the bottom, and then the other 2 racks you can only get the balls out of the top. And if you've ever seen the racks, they're about this tall. So it's very difficult for our little guys, 4th, 5th, 6th graders, to get the balls out of those racks if the boys' balls happen to be in there. So he'd like to order a couple more racks, but it's basically on a need. It's just on a need basis. I don't know.
But just men's
It's not always.
stuff
It's not
costs
always
usually
that
more?
way. No, no, it's not always that way.
It just looked like it was like, why, I wondered if it cost more. So weird.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks,
Thank you, Laura.